शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषये भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां व्यासशङ्करमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम्। Respectful regards to all the devotees. Welcome to the channel Sanatana Lahari. Today we will discuss about some of the scientific aspects that emerge from Valmiki Ramayana. Let us first understand a few little aspects related to Valmiki Ramayana. Valmiki Ramayana is itihasam. Itihasam means it happened like this. And Valmiki Ramayana is considered as the Adikavyam, the first ever Sanskrit literature that was given by sage Valmiki. That's why we consider Valmiki Maharshi as Adikavi. He is the first ever poet of the Sanskrit literature. And Valmiki Ramayana has 7 kandas, 7 parts, if you want to consider like that. They include Balakanda, Ayodhya-kanda, Aranya-kanda, Kishkinda-kanda, Sundara-kanda, Yuddha-kanda and Uttara-kanda. All these 7 kandas together comprise 24,000 slokas or stanzas. And the first sarga means chapter. Each sarga will narrate different aspects of the Ramayana. And each kanda has several sargas or several chapters. For instance, the Balakanda, the first chapter or the first sarga of Balakanda gives the brief description of entire Ramayana. The totality of Ramayana is given in the first sarga or first chapter of Balakanda. That is the summary or executive summary or abstract, whatever we call in the modern day. You find that brief description of entire Ramayana in about 100 slokas, 100 stanzas in the first chapter. And Ramayana means Ramasya Ajanam iti Ramayanam, means the path that was taken by Lord Rama is Ramayana. So if you get some doubt about the way you have to move forward whenever you are stuck somewhere in your day-to-day life, whether it is spiritual life or personal life or family life or whatever it may be, then you can look into the aspects of Ramayana. Then Ramayana will give you the guidance about the way you have to select at that point of time. And another name of Ramayana is Sitayas Charitam Mahat, means the great story of Sita. Swami Vivekananda says that in the entire literature across the world, you don't find an epic story like Ramayana. Similarly, he also adds that you won't find a character which is even comparable to that of Sita. That is the greatness of Sita. And the Valmiki Ramayana was written during the lifetime of Rama. That was in the Treta Yuga. And the Ramayana's first recitation was by Lava and Kush, the sons of Lord Rama and Sitaji. And we should also note here that the Valmiki Ramayana was listened to by Lord Rama himself, together with his brothers and his mothers and all, and it got the approval of Lord Rama. And Let us now look into the scientific aspects of Valmiki Ramayana. To start with, let us look into mathematics. There is a person called Sukha. He was the secret agent of Ravana. That was another aspect of Ramayana which is of concern, or which is very interesting. There was intelligence system during the Ramayana period as well. And that Sukha, the secret agent of Ravana, he goes and observes the Vanara Sena that was there with Rama, and he gives a description of the Vanara Sena. And if you know that you have 100 lakhs, which is considered as 1 crore, and the terminology that was used by Valmiki is as follows. One term is centum. One centum equals 1 lakh crores. And then the next higher concept is Brundam. One Brundam means 1 lakh centums. The next concept is Mahabrundam. One Mahabrundam equals 1 lakh Brundams. Then the next one is 1 Padmam, which is equivalent to 1 lakh Mahabrundams. The next one is Mahapadmam, which is equivalent to 1 lakh Padmams. Then the next one is Karvam, which is equals to 1 lakh Mahapadmams. Then you have Mahakarvam, which equals to 1 lakh Karvams, followed by Samudram, which is equivalent to 1 lakh Mahakarvams. Then Ogam, which is equivalent to 1 lakh Samudrams. Then Mahavogam, which is equivalent to 1 lakh Ogams. See, this is the kind of mathematical calculations we used to have during Ramayana time. That's why the origin of mathematics, be it any other science, particularly mathematics, the origin was from Bharat, our own Bharat Desha. Similarly, we also have the count of Vanara Sena, and it's like this. Ekam, then Dasha, Shatam, Sahasram, 1000, Ayutam, 10,000, Laksham, 1 lakh, Prayutam, 10 lakhs, Kotim, 1 crore, Adbudam, 10 crores, Brundam, 100 crores, Karvam, 1000 crores, Nikarvam, 10,000 crores, Padmam, 1 lakh crores, Shankhavu, 10 lakh crores, Samudram, 100 lakh crores, Antamu, 1000 crores, Madhyamu, 10,000 crores, Prathamu, 100,000 crores. And there is also reference of this from the Jyotish Shastra. And continuing with mathematical concepts of Ramayana, Sugriva gives a description of the Vanara Sena that got assembled from various corners to Lord Rama. Let us look into that. He says that from Anjanadri, 3 crores Vanaras got assembled. And he also says that the special characteristic of this force from Anjanadri is that they have got the highest speed. When Sugriva says that these Vanaras have the capacity to fly at the highest speed, to move at the highest speed, that means the measurement of speed was an old concept, and measurement of speed was there during the Ramayana period. It is not a new concept, as we were told by the modern day scientists. Similarly, he says that from Astadri, 10 crores Vanaras got assembled, and 1000 crores Vanaras came from Kailash mountain, and thousands of crores of Vanaras moved from Himalayas, and several crores joined from Vindhyas. And he also says that from the Milky Ocean, uncountable number of Vanaras have joined. So in mathematics we have minus infinity to plus infinity. So the infinity concept, Anantam, uncountable, is also there in the Valmiki Ramayana. Now from mathematics, let us move to geography. There was an agreement between Bhagavan Ram and Sugriva to help each other. So Rama did his commitment, got fulfilled. Then Sugriva's turn to send Vanaras to different directions in search of Sita ji. Then Sugriva was sending 4 different groups of Vanaras to different directions: north, east, south, west. Let us look into the eastern side. So, while sending these Vanaras, Sugriva gives a description of all the mountains, the cities, the rivers, etc. One can find in that direction. Let us look into the eastern direction. He says that in the eastern direction, from Kishinda, the origin point is Kishinda, you find Ganga, Sarayu, Kaushiki, Yamuna, Saraswati, Sindhu and other rivers. Which are the towns? Some of these towns or many of these towns might be having new names now. So now the task before us is to identify the current name of the town and correlate it with the town that was mentioned here in the Valmiki Ramayana. The towns are Brahmamala, Videha, Malava, Kashi, Kosala, Magadha, Pundra and Anja. These are the towns. And then the mountain, the Sisira mountain was mentioned here. And then Sugriva also mentioned about the ocean, that is Andaman Ocean. And then he mentioned about a few islands. Which are these islands? Yava, Suvarna, Rupyaka. Rupyaka means which is having gold and silver reserves. And this can be considered as the current day Myanmar and Laos. And Itchu Samudra. Itchu Samudra is the South China Sea. Then Madhu. Madhu means it is the East China Sea. Shalmali Island, which is Taiwan. And Madura Samudra. This is Japanese Sea. And Hayamukha. Hayamukha means Korea. And Udayadri. Udayadri means the land of rising sun, which is Japan. And he also talked about Kshirodam. Kshirodam means North Pacific Ocean. Then let us move to the southern direction. The rivers here include Godavari, Mahanadi, Krishnaveni, Varaha and Mahabharata. And the kingdoms described by Sugriva include Mechala, Utkala. Utkala means the current day Odisha. Dasharna, Avanti. Avanti means Ujjain. Andhra, Chola, Pandya, Kerala. And he also talked about Mahasamudra. This Mahasamudra is the Bay of Bengal. And he also said that, in the Ramayana we find that Hanumanji crossed the ocean to reach Lanka. It was 100 yojanas, Satayojana Lanka. Satayojana Samudra Langana was done by Hanumanji to reach Lanka. And if one goes beyond 100 yojanas, another 100 yojanas, then you get Pushpitakamu. This is Australia. And if you move further ahead and cross 14 yojanas, then you get Suryavantamu. This Suryavantamu is the current New Zealand. And he also talked about Rushabha Parvata, which is Antarctica. Then in the western direction, you have Saurashtra, Bahalika, Bhima and barren land, which are deserts. And Afghanistan, this is nothing but Afghanistan. If you go beyond, you get Afghanistan and then the ocean. And at a distance of about 60 yojanas, you get Varahagiri and Sauvarna Parvata and Meru. Meru Parvata is also there in that same direction. And at a distance of about 10,000 yojanas, you have Astradri. Astradri means United Kingdom. And in the north, you have Indraprastha, You have China. China means China. And Kalaparvat means Kazakhstan. Himajarbha means Mongolia. Sunya Pradesha means Russia. And you have White Snow Mountain. This is Kailash. And then you have the Salt Sea and Somagiri also in that direction. So that is the inside grasping point from Valmiki Ramayana with reference to geography. So entire description of the Bhugola is there in Valmiki Ramayana. This was all given by Sugriva. Now let us look into the medicinal plants that were referred in the Ramayana. We all know that the Rama and Ravana Yuddha was taking place. Then Indrajit, son of Ravana, comes to the battlefield and he released Brahmastra. And as a result of the Brahmastra, entire force except Vibhishana, Jambavanta and Hanumanji got affected, including even Ramji and Lakshmanji. Of course, Bhagwan Ram and Lakshmana were not affected, but Ramji tells Lakshmana, let us pretend that we also got affected with this astra and lie down so that this fellow will go back. If we don't do that, then this fellow may continue the battle and we are also tired and this is not the time to continue the battle. Then Vibhishana and Hanumanji were searching for people who have survived around the battlefield. They could not find anyone except Jambavanta. Then Jambavanta asked Vibhishana, who is that person I am not able to see? That's what Jambavanta asked. Then Vibhishana said, Jambavanta, I am Vibhishana. Then Jambavanta asks Vibhishana, hey Vibhishan, is Hanuman alive? Then Vibhishana says, why are you asking only about Hanuman? Why not Sugriva? Why not Rama? Why not Angada? Then Jambavan says, if Hanuman alone is alive, everybody is alive. He can give the life to everybody. If Hanuman is not there, no one can save us. That's what he said. Then Jambavanta tells Hanuman to go to the Himalayas and Vrishabhagiri and Kailasa Shikhara, Dronagiri. These are the mountains in the Himalayan range. And he asks Hanumanji to go there and get the medicinal plants. What are these medicinal plants? The first one is Mruta Sanjeevani. Mrutam Sanjeevayati iti Mruta Sanjeevani. Means a person who is dead will get his or her life back. Punarjivita. And then the second one is Vishalya Sharani. Jivana Anantaram Sanchara Kshamataye Vishalyam Karoti. After getting the life, this plant or this medicine enables the person to move around. Then the third one is Sandhana Karani. Vishalya Krute Tvacha Sandhanam Karoti. After the wounds get healed, the skin becomes normal as a result of this. Then Savamya Karani. Tato Varanakurta Baivarnam Vihaya Pradesanantara Savanyam Karoti. The skin gets earlier glory at the spots of wounds. You need not apply any creams which are advertised nowadays in the TV channels and all. So you don't need that. We have this Savanya Karani which will give you the earlier glory in spite of the wound and other sufferings. And then what is to be done? The powder of the roots has to be inhaled by the person. Then the person gets the benefit in terms of all these 4 attributes that were described just a while ago. That is the beauty of these medicinal plants. And look at the concept of medicine during Ramayana days. Unfortunately, we have moved away from this in the name of modern medicine, and we are not able to find proper treatment procedures and protocols or regimens for many of the diseases. Latest corona was an example. Many Ayurvedic medicines were proved to be more useful in treating corona. Our own natural home remedies like drinking kashayam and all were proved to be more useful and more effective in prevention as well as treatment of corona. And we also have the indications of life that was described in the Valmiki Ramayana. Hanuman, in the battle, Lakshmanji becomes unconscious. And then Rama was weeping, and Rama was feeling bad because he lost his brother in search of his efforts to get his wife back. And then Shushena, he was the medical doctor of the Vanar Sena, of Ramji's Sena. And Shushena observes a few aspects and tells Rama that Lakshmana is alive and Rama need not worry. And then what are these indications? He says that the face, the color of the body, the brightness, the normal breathing, normal heartbeat, and hands with the presence of blood. Shushena says that by looking at these 6 factors, he concludes that Lakshmana is alive. So that is the beauty. No test, no diagnosis, nothing. Just looking at these body conditions, he concludes that Lakshmana is alive. Now let us get into the defense related aspects. Vishwamitra took Rama and Lakshmana with him to give protection to his yajna, and because the asuras, the rakshasas, were giving problems to him. And then in the process, Vishwamitra gives several astras and shastras to Rama. And first of all, he gives a mantra, Bala and Atibala. With the help of these Bala and Atibala mantras, one can win over tiredness, hunger, sleep and thirst. Can you imagine the possibility of winning over tiredness, hunger, sleep and thirst? So this is the beauty of these 2 mantras that were given by Vishwamitra to Ram and Lakshmana. And then he says that the benefit expected rather from Rama through the passage of these mantras and astras and shastras is that welfare of the universe. Ultimate objective of science and technology should be the welfare of the community, welfare of the common man. That's why in Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki describes that the Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrugna, the 4 brothers, they completed their education. And then in just one stanza he describes that. Sarve Vedavide Rataha, Sarve Jnanopasampannaha, Sarve Lokaite Rataha, Sarve Vedavidaha, Sarve Jnanopasampannaha, Sarve Lokaite Rataha. Means they have acquired all the knowledge from Vedas, all the jnana they got. And what is their objective? Their objective is Lokahita, welfare of the community, welfare of the people. So that is the purpose of education, that is the purpose of scientific development, the development of technology. That is the message of Ramayana. Unfortunately, we are moving away from that and paying heavy price for that. And then Vishwamitra gives various kinds of astras and shastras to Ramaji. And he also says that there are some astras that makes one sleep and that there are astras that make one awake. These kind of astras were also there. Not just killing, then just make them sleep and take care of the things. And Rama was pleading to Samudra to give passage to go to Lanka. And Samudra did not listen to him. Then Ramji gets little angry and he decides to do Brahmastra Prayoga and then to make the ocean waterless. And then the situation was described when Ramji was planning to or getting ready to do Brahmastra Prayoga. There were some changes in the environment, in the nature. What were these symptoms? One was complete darkness and reduction in the brightness of the rays of the sun, and major sounds were emanating from the sky. And then there was also disturbance in the rivers as well as the lakes, water bodies. And there was lightning, and then there were also thunderstorms. There was, news some time back. The scientist who was part of the nuclear explosion and all, and the explosion of the hydrogen bomb and all, he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and he was a great follower of Bhagavad Gita. He says the similar kind of experience at the time of explosion of the hydrogen bomb and all. You can correlate this. And then let us look into the security system that was prevailing in Lanka as described by Hanumanji. When Ramji asks him to describe the security system, and he says that there were big gates on the four sides, and they are very broad, and they are very high, at a very higher height. And he also mentioned that there were powerful machines on the gates, and these machines are used to have rain of the big rods and arrows on the enemy forces. So the concept of machine and rods emanating from a machine and arrows emanating from a machine was an old concept of Ramayana. And then he also says that there was deep water on all the four sides and all. And another description is about hundreds of very dangerous iron cannons at each of the four gates. And wooden bridges were constructed. Means the construction of bridge was an old concept, not a new concept. And the beauty of these bridges is that these bridges can be opened and can be shut with the help of machines. Again, machines and application of machines, use of machines was an old concept from Valmiki Ramayana. And then Hanumanji also described how many people are there, in each of the directions, and he also said that bridges were there, boundary walls were there, and of course Hanumanji, did the Lanka Dahan. He burnt the Lanka, and almost 1/4 of the force of Ravana got perished due to the fire that erupted. It was morally a defeat for Ravana. So Hanumanji defeated Ravana even before the war started. That was the biggest war strategy. The moral defeat of the enemy even before the war started. And then we have the description of Pushpat Vimana in Ramayana. Let us look into the Pushpat Vimana. It was built with gold and diamonds. Windows were there, and it was constructed by Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is the chief architect of Indra. And then the floor was having diamonds. And it is unimaginable and uncomparable. One cannot imagine about that, and one cannot compare it with any other such kind of a thing. And this Pushpat Vimana can move anywhere in the sky. And you don't need even a remote or any control, which is controlled by your own thoughts of the owner who is occupying the Pushpat Vimana. Manasamadhana Vichara Charinam. Whatever is there in your mind, I need to go to Ayodhya, it will take you to Ayodhya. I need to go to Varanasi, it will take you to Varanasi. It's like that. And then it had dining halls, entertainment halls, meeting halls, etc. And its pace is at par with that of the air. And in terms of size, it is like a big mountain. Can you imagine construction or building of that kind of a structure? It is really beyond the imagination of an individual. And then let us look into the road development and construction of roads. Bharata was told that Ramji went to the Aranya along with Sitaji and Lakshman. Then Bharata decided to go to the forest and get back Rama. Then because entire Ayodhya went with Bharata to the forest, so the road construction work was taken up on war footing. And here the decision was that experts in measurement with balancing tools were used. Means measurement was there, the concept, and then tools that can be used to test the balancing were also there in those days. And then there was a concept yantraka, means the people who are trained to use the machines, to use yantras. That was the first category. Then above them you have yantra kovidaha, means these are the people who have got the expertise in use of these machines. So the concept of machine, the use of medicine, expertise in using of these machines is also there. And then they also planted trees on both the sides of the road. Wherever trees were not there, means the environmental protection, and then green Ayodhya, greenery, green passes. This concept was there. And they also were constructing bridges over the water flows, Jala Pravaha. Wherever Jala Pravaha was there, bridges were constructed. So construction of bridges was again an old concept from Ramayana. And then en route they constructed rest houses with temples, royal palaces, with all the security arrangements. Now let us look into the shipbuilding activity. In the modern day, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is considered as the pioneer of having naval security system and all, because many of his forts were on the banks of the ocean. So Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj established naval force to protect the fort and the people from foreign invaders using the naval forces. But in the Ramayana we have description of shipbuilding. And Bharata, along with his entire team, big team, went to the forest to bring back Ramji. And then bullock carts were there, horses, elephants, camels, chariots, army. And then if you want to see the count, 9,000 elephants were there and 60,000 chariots were there. And to carry them all to cross the river Guha, Nishadraj, arranged 500 ships, and each of these ships was having 100 naval warriors to give protection, to take care of the security and safety of the people. And then there was a category of ships, swastik ships, and this swastik ship was built with material so that it can withstand any kind of wind. Any kind of wind, this ship will be safe. And it was having golden pictures and windows and all. And on some of the ships, bullocks, carts, horses and chariots were carried away from this bank to that other bank of the river. And then on some of the ships, the horses that were used by the warriors were carried. And some people used small boats. Different sizes of ships were used by Nishadraj, Guha. And then let us continue with the bridge building activity. As we all know, Bhagwan Ram got the Setu Bandhan done. Bridge was constructed to reach Lanka, and it was built by Nala, Nala is son of Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is the chief architect of Indra. And this bridge was constructed in 5 days. On the first day 14 yojanas, then the second day 20 yojanas, 21 days 21 yojanas, 22 yojanas, and finally 23 yojanas. So there was instruments to measure the length and width of the bridge as the construction gets progressed. So the measurement was an old concept. The tools to get the measurement was an old concept. And then what was the material used to construct the bridges? Different types of trees were used, and mountains and rocks of the size of an elephant, were brought by machines. Here again the concept of machine, use of machine was mentioned in Ramayana. And the bridge was, the Setu, Ram Setu, was 100 yojanas long and 10 yojanas width. And then there were specific ropes that were used to take the measurements. Then let us look into a palace beneath the water, beneath the lake. And there was a Muni, there was a saint, Mandatarni Muni, and with his tapas shakti, and he did tapas for 10,000 years. And just based on water and air, without taking any food or fruits or anything. He survived only with the help of water and air. And then he constructed a lake below the water, underground, under the water rather, and it can be used in all the seasons. And it has got all kinds of amenities to enable someone to lead a very comfortable life with complete entertainment and all. So that means the construction of a building below water, this concept was also there in Valmiki Ramayana. Look at the scientific miracle of Valmiki Ramayana. And then let us look into Kumbhakaran. Kumbhakaran, he was gigantic personality, ferocious fellow, and when he was entering the battlefield, the Vanaras got scared and they started running away. And Andada noticed that, and Andada said, "Hey, look, don't get scared, he is not a man. This is an artificial shape that was created to, scare us. And so don't get scared. It is not a human being, it is a machine." So means the concept of robot, which we are talking now, it was there in Valmiki Ramayana. And then let us look into the town planning and urban planning and related aspects. The Ayodhya Nagaram is the capital of Koshala Desha. Manuna Manavendrena Nirmita Swayam. It was built by Manu on the banks of Saryu river. It has got 12 yojanas length and 8 yojanas width. 1 yojana means about 8 miles or about 13 kilometers. The streets were very broad with again tree plantation on both the sides. The environmental protection was given biggest priority during those days. And the Rajapatha was there, the royal path, very broad, trees with flowers on both the sides, with gates and doors. And there was also the shopping complex at the center of the town. It is like the central business district which we talk about. And then it also says that machines were there installed at various places and weapons were fixed. Then let us look into agriculture. During the Ramayana period, Ramayana mentions that the focus was on agriculture, livestock and mineral resources. And agriculture was not just depending on rainwater. And other river facilities were taken care of to provide irrigation to the crops. So, irrigation system was there. Rain dependence was not there. Unlike today's situation, in today, many places the farmers depend only on rainwater. That's why they get affected badly when there is bad rainfall. And there was also a mechanism during the Ramayana's period to protect the people who are involved in agriculture, livestock and commerce. And efforts were made to ensure comfort and peace for all the people who are involved in agriculture, livestock and commerce. Now let us look into the science and art of communication. It is a question whether communication is a science or art. My view is that there is science as well as art in communication. Hanumanji comes to meet Ramji, and then on the basis of few words that were spoken by Hanumanji, Rama was telling to Lakshmana, "Hey Lakshman, this gentleman has got good communication skills, so we should talk to him in sweet words." And Rama says that about Hanumanji, he is an expert in Rigveda, Samaveda and Yajurveda. Nan Rigveda Vinitasya, na Samaveda Vidushaha, Nan Rigveda Vinitasya. Like that. This gentleman is an expert in Rigveda, Yajurveda and Samaveda. And he has not used any inappropriate words. His vocabulary is so rich, he used the right kind of words. And he spoke about various aspects, but there were no mistakes, there were no errors from the grammatical point of view. And there were also no bad signs in his face or eyes or forehead, eyebrows or other parts of the body while he was talking. And he spoke very briefly, but lot of clarity was there and there was no ambiguity. And he was not stopping while talking to us. And he was also not breaking the words by making them meaningless. And he was not in a hurry. He spoke with confidence and he expressed his views clearly. And the voice modulation was proper, neither too low nor too high. And the words he has chosen were in accordance with the grammar and with complete clarity and attractive. Whatever he was talking, it was attractive, sweet words and can mesmerize anyone. And Vakya Vicharadaha, Vachana Kausalaha, that's what he says. And see, if one has to be a good communicator, then he or she has to pay attention to all these aspects which will make you a better communicator, which will make your communication very effective. And if you look into Valmiki Ramayana is Sarva Shastra Samahara. It has got Vastu Shastra, Jyotish Shastra, Swapna Shastra, and there are also concepts which are directly related to political administration, public administration, financial administration, etc. So, we have tried to take an aerial view of various scientific aspects that emerge from Valmiki Ramayana, and thank you so much, and Sarve Janaha Sukino Bhavantu. My only request is that we should all read Valmiki Ramayana, not only Valmiki Ramayana, all our Sanatana Varmaya, and get an understanding of various aspects, whether it is scientific or management or any other aspect which is relevant for us from our Sanatana Varmaya. And the objective of this Sanatana Lahari channel is to bring before you various aspects from our Sanatana Varmaya. And Mandalam Kosalendraya Vahaniya Gunatmane Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mandalam Swasti Prajabhyak Parivarajantam Yajena Margena Mahim Mahisa Gobhramanebhya Somatanicham Loka Samasta Sukino Bhavantu. Dhanyavad.